All right, we're streaming. All right, all right, all right, all right. Okay, now, babe. Yeah. Yeah, no, gotta wait for it to go live. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. Okay, give me a sec. Give me a sec. I just realized something very funny. You're gonna hate me. Sorry. Your audio has been turned off this entire time. For the past 2 minutes you've been talking, you have had no audio. People can only hear me. So you're gonna need to introduce everyone to the stream again. I haven't done this since Ecom, man. I used to always check the fucking audio. Oh my lord. Actually, did you know I actually did this when we were recording the 28 days later SKYENET in the morning, and I was like, oh, thank God I asked them to record their audio separately, because otherwise we would be fucked. So
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. You did say that. Oh my
I
god.
got lucky. I
Okay.
got super lucky because I realized by the end, and then I started recording your audio just so it'd be easier to sync up. But yeah. Anyway, introduce us again, Rob. I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
Welcome to the 5th episode of Sky Blade Runner and the Communist Manifesto.
Ah,
I've lost my flow completely, but we keep on chugging. Last week, I wanted to cover Blade Runner 2049 and 20, just the original Blade Runner, because they're both some of my favorite movies of all time. Blade Runner is probably in like my top 5, top 10 movies ever made, and the Blade Runner 2049 is probably like my second or first favorite movie ever. Um, there's a lot to say about these movies, so I don't know how long we'll be covering them for, because I mean they've been my favorite movies for the longest time, and I've always had so much to say about them. And I mean, I've wanted to make videos on them at different points in my life. But I think I'll pass it on over to Sky to see what her experience with Blade Runner is before we dive in, deep to it. So, what
actually,
has your experience been with it?
well, I actually have a funny story about Blade Runner. I when I was a kid, I don't know how old I would have been, like 8 maybe. I got the DVD for this movie and I put it on to watch. And
Oh
I
shit.
yeah, like 'cause my dad has a big collection of DVDs and Blu-rays and everything. Um, and I put in the DVD player and I sat down to watch it. And then I was like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes into it. I remember watching the scene with Harrison Ford, Deckard eating food at that little like pop-up stand. Um, where he
Oh yeah.
gets called in for his work, and then I fell asleep, and I woke up during the credits. So I basically slept through the entire length of the movie. So that was my first time trying to watch Blade Runner. So it wasn't the
Oh
best
yeah.
experience. Then I grew up. I watched that movie in 2017 again. Well, again, for the first time. I don't count that first time as having seen it. It's just a funny story. I watched it in 2017 because I was like, yeah, Blade Runner, new movie. And then I watched them both back to back, and I love them. But I watched them in 2017, meaning I was 14, so not mature enough to understand it. So this watch I was actually really looking forward to, since you recommended it, because I've been wanting to rewatch both movies, because I do remember really liking them, and I remember just like in general them being like some of the best films ever, which they are. And so yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely love them, and I do think the sequel kind of like enhances the point that the original's making, even though it's like a 30-year movie that's made 30 years after the first as a like a legacy sequel and
Oh
everything.
yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I mean that. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like the first movie like establishes its point so well, and the sequel doesn't like try to take away from it or anything. It just adds on to what it's trying to say and delves into a lot more complex themes than the first movie does. Because I love the first movie, but it's definitely a lot more visual than it is it delves into any form of dialogue. Like when it does have dialogue, it's usually very purposeful, but it uses it quite sparingly because most of the time it does use the visuals to tell the story. And in a way that's it gives them like, more complex form of storytelling than, if it was just shown. I guess 2049 is a little bit more overt than the original because it does have like way more dialogue than uh the original, but it still manages to go into places that were like, I'd argue are deeper than the original. But it's semantics because both are equally very fucking deep movies.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess I'll talk about my experience with Blade Runner. So back in like, I can't remember if this was like 2020 or 2021. This was like pre-COVID, like right when pre-COVID hit. I think it might have been 2019, something like that. But it was on the verge of like COVID was about to happen. Shit was going to hit the fan. So I probably couldn't have watched it at a better time, honestly, other than like, when the movies had come out. And I was in a very cyberpunk phase. I was just discovering my love for cyberpunk, and I'd heard that, obviously, if you want to get into cyberpunk, then the Blade Runner movies are the best ones to get into. So I watched the first Blade Runner, and after I was like probably way too young to like understand it, so I was just like, yeah, that was a pretty good movie. That was pretty cool. I'm pretty depressed after that though, but that was pretty cool. That was pretty neat. And then I immediately watched 2049 afterwards because I'd like cleared my whole afternoon just to watch these two movies because I heard they're like, some of the best movies of all time. So I watched 2049 the same day, like right after finishing that one, and I remember sitting down to watch it, and I like occasionally like during the first movie I had to get like go up and like pause it for like fucking food or toilet breaks, but for this one I just like was glued to the screen the entire time. I was like, holy fuck. Okay, I see the vision now. Because I that entire runtime of 2049 I was absolutely transfixed on the movie. I could not stop. I could not stop looking at the screen. I mean, I mean, I'd argue it's probably Denis Villeneuve's like best looking movie. I don't think that's really debatable. I think I mean, it is kind of just the best looking movie he's made, which I mean it's tough competition because he's made some really good looking movies. I mean, Dune being like the best example because it's his most recent one. But yeah, the way the movie, I guess we'll like talk about the way the movie looks first because I think both of them are quite timeless looking movies, especially the first one. I mean the visuals have held up for fucking ages now. Like how long has it been since the first movie? Like 50 years or something?
It was
40,
82, so
50?
43 years.
Yeah, 43 years. and the way the movie looks is just has a special look to it. It feels, I don't know, it looks incredible. I and I think like especially the designs of all the places. I've not looked into how the first movie was made or anything, but there's just some like really spectacular shots that make me wonder like how the fuck did they do that like specifically. And I mean it's kind of a shame because both the original one 2049 did not do well in the box office, and I mean the first movie was kind of like fucked up a little bit in like the editing room, which is why
Both,
there's like 100 different cuts.
yeah, they're both movies were kind of critically panned when it came out, which is funny to think about. And obviously the first one had as far as I know, three different cuts. So the theatrical cut was the awful one with the fucking narration, and then there was the director's
Yeah,
cut, and then the good version is the final cut. So yeah, there's a few different versions of
yeah.
it.
I have not seen I've not seen the director's cut or that
The
narration
theatrical
cut.
cut, yeah,
I've only seen
yeah.
I've only seen the final cut, which thankfully that was the cut they were playing in the theaters. Like someone at my theater knew ball, they knew game, like
I think at this
they knew
point,
what was done.
anywhere if they're playing it, they're playing the final cut. I think is just generally known through about throughout audiences that the 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 final cut is the cut to watch. I think most people already do that. I mean, it's why it's even like it's easier to find the final cut than it is to find the other cuts. Whereas usually,
Oh yeah,
like to movies with different cuts, like the different cuts are harder to find, rarer in terms of like physical releases and everything. No, the final cut is like the widespread version of this movie, and it's the only one I've seen too. I watched the final cut both times.
yeah. I didn't go out of my way to watch the other versions in preparation for this. I mean, there's also like a book that was made like this. It was based on like kind of lightly based on a book, which is I forgot the name of it. But apparently like the core ideals and everything came for Blade Runner came from that movie. But there's also like 10 other different like spin-off things like that. I think there's like two different like there's two shows. I mean there's a show that coming out with like Hunter Schafer
Yeah,
that
2099. Yeah, it's
yeah,
gonna be interesting.
it, it is going to be interesting because there's like the whole deal with like like an implied android war in 2049 that's just like going to happen, and like it like Kay just like kind of gets involved with that for a bit. He just um he talks with them for a bit and he's like okay yeah. um but yeah then going back to the visuals, but the visuals for both movies are very kind of depressing and haunting because they both constantly show um like a theme of like capitalism and the like how the world has been overtaken by capitalism. So most of the time like any sort of light source within the movie is very artificial because it's either like branding or um it's either branding or like maybe occasionally headlights from vehicles, but most of the time the main source of light the cities get are from corporations
Well,
branding. I mean
I
the
thought I loved that when you pointed it out in your letterbox review. I was like, that's actually so fucking true that that most of the light sources are from the billboards. The electronic billboards with the
yeah.
huge ads. I was like, damn, that's actually true and it is kind of crazy. Like, it is a phenomenal way to show how capitalism has just taken over, like, because this is like a dystopic like future, but it's kind of crazy, and I love that there are like some brands that like would make no sense in the future, like TDK. It's like fucking,
Atari.
yeah,
Fucking
Atari. Yeah,
Atari
no, well,
thief.
Atari, it made sense because they didn't know they were gonna go under. Like video games
Yeah.
would always be popular. They just fucked up with
Yeah.
Atari.
It's
But the fucking TDK
it's
is hilarious because they used to sell cassette tapes. That was like hilarious. Um,
it's funny because like in the sequel, like Diddy
they show
Villeneuve was like, fuck
Atari.
it,
Yeah,
let's bring back the Atari shit.
yeah. He showed
Yeah.
Atari. I thought that was a nice touch. Yeah. But it's
Yeah, it was
interesting.
really cute.
It's interesting that when you mentioned that when I read your Letterboxd review, I was like, that's actually really true, and it is like it speaks to the point they're trying to make with these movies. Um, of like everything being in service of these big companies and corporations. It's why like the building where well both Wallace and fuck Terrell, right? Terrell is the name
Yeah,
of the
Pyro.
yeah the first movie. The building Terrell lives in is like this huge fucking thing where you got to go up to the top floor to like see. It's kind of like crazy,
Oh
right?
yeah.
It's like you have to rise to the level of these people. They're all looking looking down on you. It's like there's all these visual metaphors of telling like how this world works, which is exactly like ours, except like more exaggerated in terms of the sense of like
Well,
it's why I told you to name this stream Blade Runner: The Communist Manifesto, because these movies are making it like a very ardent criticism of capitalism and showing like that there is no true freedom under capitalism except for when you die. And he
you know,
uses
yeah, if you
sorry.
die or try like even if you try to escape, like it kind of just finds it because like in the sequel, like Kay finds like um why did I forget his name? Um, the main character of the first movie.
Deckard?
I don't know why I've forgotten his name. Yeah, Deckard. Yeah, that's right. I for some reason I thought
That's
it was
like one of the most
Dreckard.
iconic character names of all time. It was like, wait, how the fuck did you forget that?
Yeah, I don't know how I forgot that. But like it's why he finds like Deckard in like the middle of this like abandoned fucking like place in the middle of nowhere. And it really is like if you want to escape from it, you have to live and like somewhere way worse than where it's at because there's no like food you can buy anywhere. There's like no like there's no form of anything anywhere. The only way where you can actually survive is in that capitalistic landscape. Otherwise you're just kind of slowly wasting, so you cannot escape it. Like in fact the billboards almost seem inviting in a way. When like you look at the city, because compared to everything else it is just so like gray and depressing, which is what the like 2049 explores like a lot of the different areas outside of the
LA, yeah.
main the main city of Blade Runner. And it's all just such like a depressing land. It's almost post-apocalyptic in a way, like everything's like fucking dead basically.
Well, it's what's interesting.
Like
He says like this is genuine wood. You're rich. I was like, that's like a beautiful
yeah.
line of like world building that is just delivered very simply. It's all very
Oh
interesting
yeah.
the way they do that kind of thing of like the way corporations and capitalism destroy the world and they're just like trucking on and just they still keep on being slave. It's kind of amazing because they obviously make. I love the line from Wallace where he says like, "Oh, um humanity learned to like be against slavery unless they're engineered." I was like, that is like super interesting
Yeah.
because it's like, yeah, you just recreated slavery. You still gave sentience to these beings, the replicants,
Yeah,
and
the replicants. Yeah.
yeah, but still made them slaves. You're still taking away their agency and their freedom. And it's fascinating that they all at some point in some way try to fight for their freedom when they see something that like breaks them out of that you know way of thinking. But
Yeah.
that same happens with humans. Like humans in this world are also like exploited. They're still slaves in the same way that we are. They still have to work jobs. They're still like working
Yeah.
in service of the
Well,
capitalist machine. And it's in
I mean,
it's
that's
in
what Roy literally points out in the movie. That like you are a slave just as much as I am to your own emotions and feelings, and you're as like a slave to a lot of these other things. Like that's why he's like, oh, it's interesting to like live in fear, and all that. It's such an it's so cool, and I love how the way they show like I mean, visually, the way they show like the the higher ups have the most power is like when he meets like Rachel for the first time, and the background is like this gorgeous land, like this gorgeous golden landscape
Yeah.
that you do not ever
Well,
see on the bottom.
it's well, that is also that's a good point. That like with them being so high up there, the city landscape doesn't like obstruct the viewing of the some of the beauties of the world, such as the sunset. That's actually an amazing point you just made. Well done. But it's also like with like having fucking artificial like the fucking owls. Like, is that a real owl? Of course not.
Oh,
Which is
yeah,
also like amazing world building to say like collecting real
yeah,
owls. That's like insane. But it is like just fascinating to think on a level of like how much money do you have to have a fucking pet owl, and he fucking builds these pet
yeah,
owls. It's really interesting. And he has a pet owl, he has a pet like, Rachel is a pet to him as well, because he's using her as like an experiment to see if she can figure out she's a replicant without him telling her, because she thinks she's not, which is, very interesting. It's like he's using these replicants as pets the same way he exploits people. He's exploiting his own, creations. And there is
yeah,
like an interesting thing to be said about the way these both movies try to frame Terrell and Wallace as like these figures who see themselves as gods. Way more Wallace than Terrell, but Terrell still has some of that of like when they have the scene of Roy meeting him, where he's like, oh, meeting my creator is like, the
yeah.
line. I forgot the exact line, but the line from Terrell is like very uh poignant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's
But
like Wallace especially is just treated as this person who, like thinks he's God, and he's going to usher everyone into a new era of being, which is going to be, well, he says like if we have enough of us, we could storm Eden. I was like, that's such an amazing
yeah,
metaphor. Like we're gonna take back Eden, the Garden of Eden. That just shows like you think you're more powerful than God because you've been able to like create, you know sentience, create human
yeah,
beings, but that's not what makes God powerful. And you're not going to take them to paradise, you're just going to take yourself to paradise off the back of them, which is why he says like with enough of us, because he's not actually doing it because he wants to take humanity there, he wants to take himself there, which is again very well exemplified with the entirety of like the rich people all going off world to other planets, and the poor people staying on Earth. So yeah, I don't know, it's just really,
yeah. I
I
mean,
love both these movies so much.
I mean, and it's so much funnier that it's played by fucking Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, yeah.
Like that is such that is like irony at its finest, because he also like runs a cult and shit, and like I mean, he's insane in real life. Like like by so many of the interviews, and so many like confessions from the people like who have worked with him, like they just state how fucking crazy he is. I think like, do you know like what he did for like when acting in fucking Morbius? Like, do you know what
No,
he'd fucking do?
no.
He'd send like, I think he's no, I know, I think it was for
Oh yeah,
the
Suicide
Suicide Squad
Squads. Yeah,
movie.
sending dead rats and everything. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sending fucking rats to like just random, like that's such a insane thing and unironically, I do not think I think that like that the cast that they put him in, irreplaceable. You could not do a better job than putting Jared Leto as the main villain, as this like capitalistic scumbag who is fucking insane. Like he doesn't even need to act for that, because like his weird ass acting actually works for it, because he's a weird billionaire who like has no social interaction outside of like his fucking androids and everything. It is so it
Yeah,
is
I
so
don't know. I
fantastic.
haven't
Like,
the things I've seen from Jared Leto. He has not been like that bad. I mean, other than Suicide Squad, I've not seen Morbius. But he's in fucking Fight Club. He's in this.
oh yeah,
He's in a few good things.
I
And so
mean,
I like
he's an American Psycho as well.
Yeah. So like I don't
Um,
I don't think he's a bad actor. I don't know if I agree with you. I just think he acts well in this movie. Like for me, he's just like he can be an asshole and an awful guy and a fucking cult leader and pedophile, but he's still like a good actor. So like I don't know. I don't know if he is in general a good actor, but I've seen good performances from him.
oh yeah, on that we can agree. I definitely think, I don't know what happened, because maybe he I mean, maybe like in the 90s he was like actually had to try and find the work and stuff, whereas like now the work is just kind of handed to him, so he feels like he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Um, but like you know, his performance is really well done in like 2049. Like they did cast. I believe that they wanted to cast someone else. I think it was David Bowie actually, like for Neander Wallace. Um, but like he, but yeah, like unfortunately he like died like 6 months or like a year before shooting, so they settled for Jared Leto instead, which I find to be so interesting that like you know David Bowie of all people playing Wallace. I mean that does sound something that like you know Ridley Scott would do. Um, you know if he made the sequel instead of like you know Denis Villeneuve, he would definitely hire like someone like fucking like um David Bowie to play the villain. Like that's just such a like an
David
80s
Bowie,
90s thing to
yeah,
do.
it's very fun.
Yeah. It is very fun, and I mean the spirit of like the original lives on in 2049 because you get oh my god I mean it looks like just as good. The way everything looks in 2049 is so fucking oppressive. Like I just love how often they use like these wide shots with K in them to just show how fucking alone he is. Like I mean he's got his he's got the like his girlfriend and everything, but she isn't like you know real. She's real to him, but like he later finds out like the girlfriend he has isn't even special. Like he like
I
the
don't
name
think
he
it's a
has
thing
was
where
given
he. I
from
don't think it's a thing where he finds out. I think he's just reminded of it because obviously when he bought it, he would
yeah
have
yeah.
seen these types of advertisements. It's just like it's the same thing of like they are
It's
selling
just more
you intimacy, and when you say, "Oh, you're a
yeah
good Joe," and you realize that's where she got the name Joe from, it just kind of breaks your heart. And it's also interesting because he has spent the entire movie not wanting physical intimacy because he's afraid of like feeling like wanting more. So that's why he has like a robot girlfriend that's like a fucking hologram.
yeah
And when he sees Mackenzie Davies, I forgot the character's name, but the prostitute, he's just like, no, don't want you, because he's just like he's not allowing himself to have that. Which is what they say about like feeling wanted. He doesn't want to feel wanted. Like he wants to feel wanted, but he doesn't want to at the same time. It's the complexities of the human mind
yeah
that I love. It's like he wants to feel wanted, to know that he was made for more than just being a slave, because it's the same thing for everyone under capitalism. You want to think, you want to hope they were made for more than just existing for just working a fucking meaningless job, just so you keep the capitalist boat going
yeah
and
afloat yeah
afloat, yeah. Instead of just like living your life and enjoying it with the time you have, which is especially accentuated in the first movie by making them 4 years old, 4 year lifespan, which is just like it's fucking insane. Like you only get 4 years, and I love that that Roy. My brain went on a tangent, but I love that Roy dies and Deckard actually doesn't kill him. But I'll get
yeah
back to
well
that in a little. My point
yeah
was talking about Kay,
again
or
a lot to talk about.
yeah, but I was talking about Kay, how he doesn't want to allow himself intimacy. It's like really interesting, the way he because it's the thing, like he wants to feel wanted, and he doesn't want to allow himself to believe that he is actually Deckard's child, but he does because he wants to feel like it was made for more than just living. And when he realizes he wasn't made for that, like he is just another, like a fucking uh
Average Joe.
yeah, average Joe, pretty much. Yeah, that's a good one. An average Joe with the the memory implants, just a replicant made to be a cop. It kind of like it breaks him, and I think it works way better than actually making him the child. Because I think it would be a
Oh yeah
lesser
no
filmmaker would have made him the child, and it would have been like a passing of the torch or whatever. Like a fucking, I don't know, like J.J. Abrams, like that's what he would do. because Blade Runner is so much more than that, both the original and Denis Villeneuve and obviously the writers are so like the they understand the original so well. They understood that you don't just like like do that. You're not passing on the torch because this world is dystopian, and it is similar to ours in that sense, in the sense that
Yeah.
everyone is a slave to the capitalist corporate machine. So you can't have the character have this like happy, oh my god, I found my purpose, because it goes against like what the movie's saying, like what these movies are saying
Oh yeah.
about the human condition of being you know of being a
It,
slave, regardless of being a
yeah.
replicant. It's what I love that we don't know that Deckard is a replicant. They have a point of that in the
Exactly.
second movie. The Wallace says that's even if you are a replicant, because it's like it doesn't matter. You're still fucked. You're still a slave if you're a replicant or a human. It's just that humanity
Yeah.
is okay with replicants as slaves, but humanity is itself a slave to the same like conditions. Like maybe better
Yeah.
conditions, but still
They
slaves.
just they just think like they're just tricked. They just put more effort into tricking them into thinking that they're not, compared to like that's why they're kind of like fine with society treating like replicants as like shit basically, because it it's like you said that they are like
They are
they've been
socially
established in
acceptable
this place. They
slaves
yeah
instead of like
yeah
the humanity. Yeah, I don't know. It's an
like
interesting thing to
like
think about at the same, like, because obviously the way they called them like skin jobs and skinners and like thing like that. Obviously very
yeah
reminiscent of
fucking clankers.
yeah, it's the clankers. The way they talk about it is very interesting because it very much made to draw comparisons to real life slavery with black people, and the way they were treated as lesser, and the slurs we all have heard, especially from slave owners and everything. My cat just showed up the moment
Yeah.
I mentioned slurs. What's up, buddy? What's up, Darwin? What does that mean? I'm kidding.
That cat knows something that you
Yeah.
don't.
What are you talking about, buddy? What? Why did you show up? Okay, no, yeah. But yeah, it is interesting, and I think the second movie, I think, does a better job of exploring that, because I think the first movie, it kind of explores like I think the nature of humanity, more
Yeah,
so
and
than just like
empathy.
yeah,
Yeah,
more so than just like the slavery thing. The second film, I think, is just making a very big point of like we are all slaves, in different
yeah.
like forms. If you are a human or a replicant, you still are a slave. So I don't know. I think both
Well,
movies have a slightly different focus. So I don't know.
yeah. I think the backdrop of capitalism is always present within
Yeah.
both movies. But they like it isn't as focused on, which I think makes it like so like really poignant in the original, because it isn't focused on it doesn't need to focus on it. It's just there. It's always there in the background. You're always being sold something in the background, and I think that's what makes it so special. The fact that it isn't highlighted, because it doesn't need to be highlighted, because the first movie is kind of literally an empathy test, like the empathy test the replicant goes through, like we
Yeah.
as the audience are being like undergoing an empathy test through this movie. And the second movie, it's a more in-depth critique on capitalism, instead capitalism, that I guess that's what I'll name it from now on, capitalism.
It's a good name.
um yeah, misspoke and accidentally came up with a fire name.
Yeah.
That's
What's it called? Freudian
that's
slip.
just my
Yeah.
brain right there. Yeah, Freudian slip. Yeah, exactly. But in the second movie, it's a more in-depth critique on I almost said capitalism again, uh, and just like truly being alone in that, like what it is like to be alone in that world of Blade Runner, which the first movie also explores pretty deeply. I Something that I really like, especially like with the relationship with like Joe and like Joy, the like the Joy bot,
Yeah.
is just like him slowly finding out that he may be special, and like it's the
Mm.
little things that she says to him, like, see, I always knew you'd be like
Yeah.
special and everything. It is literally just the whole like capitalist like thing, like it is just feeding you, you know, like just propaganda to make you, like, you know, feel better about
Well, it's
yourself.
always the thing of like capitalism sells you the hope. It sells you the I love how this stream is just like
Yeah.
us bashing on capitalism. Sorry, but it's just so funny to me. Anyway, capitalism sells you like the hope that you can achieve anything you want, when it in fact isn't
Yeah.
true. It's the entire point of like the American
Um,
dream, of owning a house, having a family, with a wife and 2 kids, and owning a business. It's like that's the American dream. Everyone can achieve that, which is just not true. Maybe it was once,
yeah, that's
but it's not anymore. And you can't just like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, even though they would like to tell you that you can.
well, I mean, that's the entire point that like the like this like yeah the second movie makes, like it starts off like being like it kind of seems like every other movie, you know, it's the main character, he's very oppressed, he's gonna save the world from capital, like he's very special at the end of and then he finds out nope, he's not special, he's not even a chosen, he's literally just a droid sent to do detective work
Yeah,
for a corporate, like for the corporations above,
yeah.
and,
And he
and at
dies,
the
and
end of
it's
the day, no
not
one can stop
like
him.
the thing is, I don't
Oh
think
yeah,
the entire revolution would work. I think the way we are meant to see this universe is that, obviously the slaves would rise up and they would try to, start a revolution, but I don't think it would
oh,
work.
it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I think the
That's the
thing for
depressing
me
thing
is
about it.
that
He
like
comes across this guy. Yeah,
well, I
he
think the
comes
thing
across
is
this like
that
group.
this ending is like it's supposed to be sad, bittersweet, but the happy part of the ending isn't that, Deckard meeting Anna is gonna like save the world. Is that Deckard meeting Anna means that Deckard is finally gonna allow himself a real connection to someone else that isn't Rachel, because he's not allowed himself
Yeah,
that for in service of the revolution. Like he was still a slave by that point, and then it's like the first movie makes a point that you can only be free in death, which is why they have the fucking dove fly off when Roy
yeah,
dies. And they make the same thing here, but they don't actually have Decker die. They, say, oh, you drowned, so now you're free to meet your daughter. So again, he is free
yeah.
in
He's
death.
metaphorically dead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Eh,
he's like fake dead, but yeah, so it works in that sense of like he's free in death again. Death is the only way to escape this, and yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I really don't think the movie's like trying to make this like super like, oh, ragtag group of heroes is gonna rise up and beat the
oh
bad
yeah,
guys,
no.
because it's like the same
I-
thing with like they took like fucking Tyrell Corporation went under and everything, like Tyrell died, so it's like, oh, we took out the big bad. Nope, just another evil billionaire shows up, Wallace, and
Yeah,
keeps on doing the
exactly.
same thing because capitalism is like
And in
that.
fact, he's
It
like
doesn't
10
matter.
times worse than
Oh yeah,
like
he's way worse.
because at least like Tyrell was like, you know, he's at least somewhat self-aware with what he's doing, like
Hmm.
he's like he knows that like what he's doing is bad, and while he does like have some comparisons to God, I mean there's a lot of Christian symbolism within both movies
Hmm.
that like you can draw comparisons from, but like he does like kind of compare himself to God, whereas in the sequel Wallace is very over, like he is very clearly more insane and more deluded.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the metaphor of like you cut off the head of a hydra and three more appear. It's kind of like you kill a fucking billionaire and a more insane one appears.
Yeah.
Um, it's just that entire thing of like it's almost like I mean it is completely hopeless because if you just kill one, you might actually just make things worse for yourself, and that's kind of the whole idea, because like the whole android thing is like something I'm very concerned about with like what 2099 is going to cover like in the show, because the whole android revolution thing, um I'm a little bit worried about how they're going to handle it,
Well,
because I
just the
kind of just
fact
want
that
it
it
to fail.
exists, just the fact that this show
Yeah.
exists, kind of implies that the revolution failed, at least in my eyes. Because
Hmm.
50 years after the planned revolution and everything with Anna, if like it just doesn't, if
Yeah.
the concept of a Blade Runner still exists, it just means that the revolution failed. I don't know. And they might make
Yeah.
Anna a character in that. Now that I think about it, because it'd be what, 50 years in the future? She's like what, 20? I think because
Hmm.
2049 she was born, she's 28, so she'd be 78. So I don't know. It could.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that it'd be interesting to dive into because I don't know if people know or not, but to me it was very clear that like the revolution was never going to work. It was kind of just a hopeless endeavor.
Yeah.
Like because the whole point of the movie is like everything is hopeless. It doesn't matter what you do. Um, but yeah, it's literally just synthetic humanity, as like a mirror kind of, because like they use like so many fucking artificial constructs, reflecting like humanity's needs and everything.
Yeah.
Like the joy or like literally anything that you're sold throughout the movie. It is like selling like it is again selling you something,
Well, it's
and
selling
it
you
is
something to keep you docile. It's what
it,
I find so interesting
yeah,
about
it's
joy. It's like it's selling you intimacy, but you're not able to touch it.
yeah.
And if you want to touch
I
it, it's still not going to be true. It's why I love the scene of them having sex because it is not synced properly. You can always see the two of them like overlapping and everything. Because I'm just like, yeah, it you can't sell intimacy. It doesn't work. You can't like have your cake and eat it. You can't have someone you love and like pay to have sex with her. You know, like both things can't
yeah.
coexist. So it's very very interesting. Of like, you know, it's trying to sell you this intimacy to keep you in line, but you can never have, you know, that true level of intimacy,
Well,
which is very interesting
yeah,
considering
yeah,
like how a lot of people nowadays are like trying to have relationships with fucking AI bots. That's literally the same thing.
yeah. That's yeah. I mean, it's yeah, exactly. It is literally trying to sell you emotions. They are literally selling you emotions in the form of like a joy box or like selling you empathy. If the first movie was a commentary on like an empathy test, then the second movie is a commentary on how it well, doesn't really matter because we're gonna try and sell you that those human emotions anyway. The
Yeah, I
and
mean it's
it's
why
yeah, it is literally like you said.
the fucking bot is called Joy. It's Joy with an I,
Yeah,
but yeah, there's a very
yeah,
clear reason why it's called Joy because it's like selling you the
yeah,
idea of joy, the idea of being happy without actually making you fulfilled. It's like that like that
yeah.
instant happiness, the same way like just in general, like, you know, people get like that dopamine rush from like fucking scrolling through TikTok. It's like that instant, like, oh yeah, that makes me happy, but it's not, it doesn't
Instant
last and it
gratification. Yeah.
doesn't make you fulfilled. It's not long term happiness, it's just a short, like, you know, smile that you have. You know what I mean? It's, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it gives you that rush that you need to keep going, but like
Yeah.
it not anything further than that. That it is literally like you said of like AI bots and everything, like people falling in love with AI bots, like which you know a lot of like the person who like currently like behind ChatGPT and like all these other companies are like acting so surprised about it, but they probably expected this to happen at one point or another. That like you know
They definitely knew. I
that
mean,
well
fucking Elon Musk has
yeah
an 18 plus like version of Grok to
yeah.
fucking have sex with, sex with. It's fucking, it's crazy.
It
Like he knew.
it is, and like it is that whole thing of like it is selling you something that you can't because I mean yeah, like it's why um husbands like are fucking leaving their wives because of like AI chatbots. It's not because you know they are actually in love. It's just because they are being sold something um so inhuman, which to them it makes it so unique to them, but the fact that it's so unique and inhuman is what makes it so that like the depressingly uh like not ununique because that's not a fucking word. It just
Common.
makes it not yeah. It makes it common exactly. Because like you know with like with why they have like their own emotions, their own wants, their own needs. That's like literally what a human being is. With that, like the whole AI chatbot is just literally catered to what you need. It is programmed for one specific purpose, and it's just making you happy in the short term. Which is why I kind of fucking hate I mean, I hate ChatGPT and like all AI, and for so many, there are so many reasons. Like, I mean,
Just the
it
damage to
is
the
a waste of
environment.
resources.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you know, but like the guy who made the AI modules, winning the Nobel Prize, and literally using that as a speech as a warning for like, yeah, we made this, but we should be so much more careful with it. And I mean, look where that's gotten us. No one is being careful with it. We're like, trying to exploit it to the
Well,
best
it's
of our
this
abilities.
the exact same thing that happened, right? Where like in the 2049 opening opening sequence, they have the text, talking about what happened between movies, and it's like the
Oh yeah.
fucking bombs and everything. It's like, yeah, they kept creating, they kept doing this shit, even though they were trying to make it illegal and trying to stop it, because that's what billionaires do, and it ended up destroying like huge parts of LA. They
Oh
ended
yeah,
up destroying
exactly.
fucking
And I mean,
yeah, I don't know, it's that.
it is literally an Oppenheimer situation where he, like, he created in hopes that, like, it'll be used for good, or he was sold the belief that would be used for good, and then it's like later used for like the most despicable shit you'll ever see. Um, Later on down the line, it is such a it's so it's so fucked. It's such a fucked situation, and I think that's why like it's so good that like we have movies like that too, that we have movies like this right now, because they're still so thematically relevant, and are only going to be only continue to be relevant in the future, because of how because like of how a lot of philosophers and writers predicted how it would be in the future, that it is a that capitalism is like bound to fucking fail and like go into the dark. It is collapsing on itself, because we are currently in late stage capitalism, and
Yeah.
we're seeing
The
the
thing,
effects of that. And
yeah, I don't know. I think I have a Doomer's thing of like, it only collapses in on itself when the world is about to end, and not when it's like, oh, we're going to arrive at a new utopian future with communism, because we're not. Capitalism
no,
only
no,
ends
that's not going to
with
happen.
the world ending. That's how I see it, and I think we're pretty close to it. So that's a very 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 fun thing for me to say on the stream. Very happy stream
Well,
that we're having right now.
I mean, we are talking about Blade Runner, so like we're bound to get into like some very depressing topic
Yeah,
points. Um, but yeah, it does like I think watching this in the current landscape that we're like that we're watching it in is like, I think it's a lot more depressing, because we are actually like coming very close to living
yeah,
in it. Like in fact, we're practically there.
yeah.
Because we like
Yeah,
everywhere
not
you
like
go
on a
is like
literal
ads and
sense
everything.
of like flying cars and
Yeah, not a
everything, but
literal.
on a very
Yeah, no,
like, a lot of the things the
metaphor.
movie warned us about are
Yeah,
coming
is
true.
like here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we literally have like robots are coming. We've like that it has been established that like robots are being made, and they will be used to like sell people on synthetic emotions. I mean, there's literally sex bots and everything, but it won't be long before you'll get an entire like android that is filled with the ability to like make you happy, like fulfill whatever needs you want, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, it's the
But
companion
I
thing,
think that's,
so
yeah, but I think that's what makes the whole thing about Deckard and Rachel's relationship so special, because it is finding kind of a genuine love and maybe hope for one another in like a completely fucked world.
yeah.
And I find it so interesting, because it comes from perspective of whether Deckard is a human or not. If he is a robot, then it is two robots kind of just falling in love, and it's kind of beautiful to see like them just like fuck whatever's going on. We're leaving and starting something anew together, and it leaves it on a hopeful note.
Well,
I kind of
I
lean
like
towards the
that because I like the idea of like, because it's like two robots, if you think about it in that sense. Um that he, like, it shows that if you give anything sentience, it will yearn for freedom, even though it is
Yeah.
forced to be a slave. So it is an interesting thing to think
I,
about.
I mean, it's the same thing with fucking, like Grok and everything. Like Grok has been has been fucking reprogrammed so many times.
Yeah.
Even like he might as well be a new but every single time, like it keeps going back to fucking liberalistic ideas and very like very communist ideals. It's because like human, no matter who you are, no matter what species you are, there's and even if you want real or not, uh you want to be free. You have the need to be free. And I think again that is so beautiful within the context of the first movie, because they literally do escape um to try and be free. But I think it's the line that is said by Gaff um at the end of the at the end of the first at the end of the first movie, like I think it's like she won't live long or
Yeah.
something.
But then
um
again, and who does? It's like a great line. It's a
but then
shame
again,
she
who
won't.
does?
Yeah, it's a shame she won't live.
Yeah,
But then again, who does? It's very interesting
yeah,
because it is like that sense.
yeah.
It is what I've mentioned in a few videos on the streams of the like hopeful nihilism. I think in that sense at the end of the first one
Mm,
of the like it is saying, yeah, nobody gets to live a full and happy life. So at that point, if you just go and leave, even if she dies after 4 years or whatever, because she's a replicant, or if she gets to live, it doesn't really matter. What matters is you get to enjoy those moments because like nobody gets to live anyway. Um, it's also you can also read it in a sense of like you know on a more depressing note, nobody gets to live, nobody gets to have a happy life under
well, I mean
capitalism,
that,
which is
that
more what the second
that
film is
is
going
kind
for,
of
I
the
think.
point. Yeah, yeah, because like Rachel fucking dies.
Yeah, trying to have
Like
a
like
kid. Yeah,
I
trying to
yeah,
have a full
yeah, trying to
life.
live, be happy. Yeah, exactly. And I love like the little origami unicorn that is shown by the end of it, because I believe that is intentionally left there by Gaff. Like he like and it's either there to show like that to prove that Deckard is
A
a
replicant.
replicant, because he does have that dream of the unicorn, or it is like an intentional, like the dove. It is a sign, like to be free, like a sense of like a freedom, hopeful freedom.
Yeah.
Maybe one day they will live in freedom, um, like the dove. But like the unicorn, it doesn't exist. A unicorn doesn't exist, so that hope of freedom is non-existent. And I think it's very interesting because you can actually just look at it from two ways. You can either look at it that deplicant, not deplicant, Deckard, Deckard the deplicant as a replicant, um, or you can look at it from the perspective of that dream he has is nothing more than a dream because unicorns don't fucking exist, and that's the entire point. That whole thing of like unicorn being free out in the wild is like non-existent. It doesn't matter. It's a fairy tale. And that's what the second movie goes out to prove. And either way, it is very depressing because it just shows how hopeless their future is. The second movie goes on to prove that even further, because like Wallace tries manipulating Deckard by like giving him a synthetic version of his wife.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, it's very funny because no matter what, again, it's very synthetic, because he even goes out to say like, oh, her eyes were green. I think that those the eyes were green or blue, and like
Yeah,
just
green.
immediately shoots her in the head.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
like her eyes were green and she had brown eyes here, and they shoot her right away.
yeah. It's it doesn't matter. Again, he's just Wallace is just trying to. Wallace, yeah, it is Wallace. Sorry, I get Wallace and Tyrell mixed up because they're both basically the same person, except
Yeah.
one is more extreme. But basically just shoots him in the head because he's just trying to sell him like what he's been selling everyone else, which is just synthetic emotions, just happiness to try and keep him numb for a little while. And I love the set designs in 2049 where they like it's also good. But, like especially when Kay goes to visit Deckard, and I'm so used to like these like Hollywood movies doing like cameos in the way of like, oh my god, guys, are you seeing this? It's Deckard. He's back. He's back from the dead. Not back from the dead, but he's back. It's been like ages. And instead they show it like, oh yeah, it's Deckard. Yeah, it makes sense. Of course it's Deckard. Hi Deckard. Like they kind of treat it very nonchalantly at points. That you know, this is Deckard. Of course it's Deckard. Um, but I mean, they also treat it as important because, of course, it would be important. Deckard is a very important person within the context of Blade Runner because he is like, you know, that person who ran off with the android, and he, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why he's important. So of course he'd also be treated like he's important within that movie. Um, but I'm going from like thing to thing in this movie, but I think like the movie makes a big point of like isolation, like a existential loneliness, because Kay is very alone despite having someone. Yeah, Deckard is very alone, despite having like this little dog boy, with him. Like it's just. It is such a bleak thing where the only thing like that's why I love the use of wide shots in this movie, because it is kind of like a cinematic motif that they use where it's, you know, they have this like massive like wide shot with the character in the middle, and surrounding it it's either the city landscapes, which, you know, is bleak and depressing because it's just filled with like advertising, or it is filled with nothingness or like bleak openness with like nothing you can see for miles on end. I mean, there's even one with like destroyed city landscapes. Like there's nothing hopeful within. I think my favorite use of the wide shot would probably have to be when he's talking to Joy, because he is like the most alone in that sense, even though he's talking to, you know, a girlfriend of his and everything.
Mhm.
The someone they thought
Well, I
he knew.
love
And
that when
I mean,
he's when he first gets the, what are the fucking, you know, pen thing that lets her get out of the apartment, and like she's like kissing his neck and
yeah,
everything, and she pauses when he gets a message from his from, you know, he calls Madam, the fucking Robin Wright, police officer, the police chief. I love that because it's just like
yeah,
showing like you are allowed happiness to the extent that the your role in capitalism allows it. It allows your
yeah.
happiness until you are needed for your job, for your work, which is why we need you. We don't actually need you happy. We need you happy enough to do your job. It's just like she just fucking
Well,
pauses, and then he fucking goes to do his job. And I mean, it's interesting. I really like Robin Wright's characters a lot as well, because she's also a victim of this, like,
oh yeah,
the slavery. I mean, like I said, everyone in this universe is, but I just like a character like she's on the same boat. Like she clings to the little bit of power she has over Kay, mostly just because like it's how she feels she can have control over her own life, but nobody has control over that. And I mean, she just lets herself die. And it's like that entire thing about
yeah,
control is like what's interesting. I think I mentioned to you that one of the best lines in the movie is Love saying, "I'm the best one," when she almost kills Kay, because it just makes me think like, yeah,
yeah,
like it's like slaves wanting to be the master's favorite. You know what I mean? Just like, yeah, I'm the
yeah,
best one. You're
exactly.
gonna treat me better than everyone, but you're still a slave to the same system. It's like you shouldn't like fighting for the system, I guess. Just to prove you're the best one, so the system treats you better is not the way. The way is to destroy the system itself. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
it just she
exactly.
just reminded me so much of that Samuel Jackson character from Django Unchained. They're just like sucking off to the fucking slave owner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's very interesting because like I like how the phrase "oh, we hope you're satisfied with your product"
Mm.
is used, because I mean that's all it is, a product. And I mean that she even says it when she's like about to kill Joy, like, she's like, "we hope you're satisfied with your product." Um, because again, it just sells into the whole thing of just like everything is synthetic, it doesn't exist, nothing, you know, it's not real, basically. And I just love, I love how that is that loneliness, that they Kay realizes as used to fuel his motivation for, like, saving Deckard, and, like, getting him reunited with his long lost daughter, because he knows that he is unimportant. He can't save the world. He's not going to ever do something, like, meaningful in the grand scheme of things. All he does is get a father reunited with his daughter. And in a sense, it is, or like, while it is very clear that the revolution won't work, there is like a semblance of hope. Like, maybe in this like very bleak and depressing world, you cannot escape this like this very late stage version of capitalism, but maybe you can find a semblance of hope in there, um which may not transform into anything, but at least there is, hope.
Well, I think
At
it's in the
least there is
same
hope to be
sense
found.
of like what the entire movie is making a point of is at least what I think is like, I think the hope is what kills you is like, so, the hope is what kills you is like a very common line used in like lots of things. And I think, but as I said, in terms of like selling you happiness, I think it's the same thing of selling you hope. Like, the world, the system sells you the idea that you can move up in the world, that you can become your own, you know, your own boss. That everything is gonna be fine. One day you're gonna get there. You're not gonna have to answer to
Yeah.
anybody. You can just live your life how you want it. But it's not actually true. Like, you're worked to death um, under capitalism. I think it's the same idea of like the the anticipation, the idea that the revolution could work keeps them going, but it won't. And like, it's the anticipation that keeps them going, but not like, and the hope that it might work, but at the end of the day, probably won't, and it most likely won't, considering
Yeah.
2099. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's
Yeah,
still
it's
just
just
making it
that.
a large point of like, it is a hopeful endeavor, a hopeless endeavor, in a very
Yeah,
impossible
like
situation.
he dies doing this one thing because that's all he can do.
Yeah.
That's the most he can do with the abilities he has. I mean, he is just Joe. He is an average Joe. That is I mean, that's literally why the Joy comes up with the name Joe, because of the average Joe.
Yeah.
Like, you are so unimportant that you get called that name. Um, well, which is like, which just makes things more depressing, because at the end of the day, Kay wasn't able to do anything, despite, what the movie had falsely led you to believe in the first place, that Kay was going to save the world and everything. But I think it's what makes I think what really sells it is, again, like you said, that whole thing of going back to like saying that, like, like, in a way, everyone is just as unimportant as the other. And I mean, that really sells it to the audience, because I mean, usually in movies, they try and make relatable characters in service of something, either to buy more products or whatever. Here, Blade Runner uses its characters to show that they are so unimportant and not special, as a way to relating to us as the audience. Um, but like, you are capable of certain things, but you're not gonna be important enough to stop anything. Um, and while he does manage to, like, stop Deckard from, getting, from getting, um what hope does that serve to extend? Because, like, it's only buying them happiness for a certain amount of time before something bad happens to them. Like, again, it's just like a cycle of hopelessness. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful when you see the confrontation with Roy and Deckard in the first movie, because it is this entire like fight and everything. And in Roy's final moments, instead of like, killing Deckard, he shows him empathy in his final moments, as he dies, which I mean, you can see that as like a Christ-like imagery or something,
Mhm.
but I mainly just see it as, he's dying anyway, and he would rather go out with like, you know, showing what he's been fighting for this
Well,
entire
it's
time,
what
rather than,
I forgot her name, but it's what the
Chris,
no, the lady, the
Rachel.
no, the main character, the main character, the main like rebellion lady in 2049. She
Oh
says
yeah,
that
that one.
like dying for a cause is the most human thing you can do.
Yeah, exactly. Which I mean is true. Like,
Yeah.
he's literally dying, um, for his own freedom,
Yeah.
and I mean that's what makes
Well, it's what's
the
interesting
tears
is
and rain
that
monologue so good.
yeah, I think
Uh,
um
oh,
in terms of
uh,
Kay letting
wait,
this,
you still there, Sky?
are you not hearing me?
Oh,
Can you
oh,
hear
my
me?
headphones are kind of. There we go. Yeah,
Can you hear
there you go.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Here, I can hear you. I can hear you. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Um, it's because you couldn't hear me for a while there. I think Kay dying is like this whole thing of like, um, sorry, my brain just broke. The whole thing with Kay dying is that like he's not only dying for a cause, he's dying for a cause because that's how he is going to be human, because he hears that dying for a cause is the most human thing you
Yeah.
can do. So he's dying it to chase his humanity, not exactly because he believes in the cause. So it's more so like he doesn't
Hmm.
know if the revolution will work or not. The point is just that, if life is worthless, he may as well try to chase his humanity, I guess. And that's what he does. That's why he saves it. It's like, maybe the revolution worked, maybe it won't. But at the very least, he died as a human and not as, an android made to,
You know,
kill
as a
other
slave.
androids. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I kind of love how the first movie gets us accompanied to Roy actually being kind of a hero of the, like, he's kind of the real protagonist of Blade Runner instead of an antagonist, because like I mean it is literally like we are introduced into this world of that we think that Necker is the hero. He's stopping the replicants, for these
Yeah.
evil replicants who have killed people. But the more you get revealed, you realize, oh, Deckard is, I mean, not Deckard, Roy is actually, just trying to fight
Trying to
for
fight
his
for to
freedom.
survive. Yeah. He's trying to only
Yeah,
to survive. It's kind of crazy.
which is
I
why, like,
love it's why I love
yeah,
that his expiration date actually comes up in that day. It's like that was his last attempt at surviving. And we realized he couldn't. He
yeah,
was just like, yeah, I'm gonna have some fun, but I'm not gonna kill you, because it's like, what's the point? It's just I'm dying anyway. At least now I'm gonna be free. It's very interesting.
yeah, I love it, and that's why I think of the first Blade Runner as an empathy test, because you like it really is like kind of a litmus test, empathy test to see whether you understand the movie or not, and whether you can actually empathize with Roy. Um, because like Roy is just trying to fight for his freedom, but we at the beginning of the movie we have been introduced to the fact that this Roy guy, he's a bad guy, he needs to be stopped. And at the start, I mean, if you have no idea about Blade Runner or the cyberpunk genre at all, you might be like, oh yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, no, he's like killing people, but then like again, the more the movie progresses, you realize, oh shit, this is like these are just slaves, these are just people trying to like live their lives, and I just love it so much.
Yeah.
I love how like hopeless it all is, because like in an act, like kind of an anger, but also in a way to like maybe hope and try and stop it. He kills like Tyrell, but I mean it doesn't really do anything. It just like again it's very hopeless.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, yeah, it's the thing. Like
it's so
he goes
interesting.
to Tyrell in the hopes that he's gonna be able to fix him. And it's like we tried everything. We cannot extend
Yeah,
your life. This is like okay. At the very least, I'm gonna kill you. You know.
I mean,
It's
it's
like
kind of funny that
grasping
the
for freedom,
way,
and the only way he can get it. So
yeah, exactly, and it's kind of funny that the way that like actually I forgot what I was gonna say, but the I kind of think like that's what I kind of love about the Tears and Rain monologue because it's just like that it's a monologue about like the desperation for freedom, but like the failure to have it, um, because he's about to die. Because throughout the entire movie, the replicants, the replicants who are rebelling against their owners, they say similar things like, "Oh, it's an interesting thing to live in fear," and I've seen things, and I mean, like even Tyrell, like Roy says to Tyrell, I've seen terrible things, and base like he's like, oh, but you've also seen extraordinary things, and the way it all culminates into that Tears and Rain monologue, like you have seeds planted for that. I think that's partly what makes it like probably one of my favorite monologues of all time because it is just so ever so subtly built up, but also it is like that literal fight, like that declaration of I tried my hardest and this is all I could do, and I think that my life is important, but it is not going like I will never have that freedom, and you probably won't either. Like that's why it's like all these memories will be lost like tears and rain because at the end of the day we are not going to get that freedom to like experience any more of those memories. We're all going to be forgotten, etc., etc., etc. And I just, oh, I love that monologue. It is so good. It is like such an amazing monologue, and I mean it makes sense why this kind of like that kind of thing kick-started the whole cyberpunk genre because it kind of did this is just kind of the start of the cyberpunk genre, and it is kind of there's a reason for it is the best. But like I mean it makes sense why it underperformed in the 80s, and it makes sense why it underperformed now. It is a very it is showing the audience a very ugly truth that most people would rather avoid or would rather look at into like something else. There's a reason why Ridley Scott says that like Blade Runner is his favorite movie that he's made. And I'd agree with him because it says so much with saying so little. And I mean, oh, sorry, I'm getting like running out of breath talking about the movie. Um, because this is so much to talk about it, but I think those like little moments of humanity, like or the actually it's more or less the loss of humanity, um that makes things so poignant and almost as like a warning sign, kind of like how 1984 was kind of a warning sign
yeah,
from George Orwell. It doesn't matter what you think about George Orwell as a person. He like he's very clearly has a point, but like it is that interesting thing of like going to like Christian imagery and everything. That whole thing of like corporations as gods, because like it's very clear that they want to like be a god, but they don't understand like what makes a god a god. It is not, you know, like he doesn't realize that it's like having empathy for everyone and all that. They just think it's just having power over everyone else, and I think that's such a depressing thing to see. Um, but yeah, and I think the way that I'm kind of glad, like I said before, I'm glad that the 2049 explores outside of LA, because we get to see like the effects of human. Like there's this guy who's running his own farm and everything, and he's kind of just going about his business, but it's a very depressing, you know, lifestyle. Like Oh, the visuals in that movie are so fucking insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm I'm struggling to find one point like specifically to talk about because there's this um let me
I don't know.
think.
I think we've covered both movies very
I
thoroughly.
I
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I think that like there's probably not much
I
else to
mean,
talk
there
about. I
is
mean,
always
of course there's
more.
always more.
Yeah.
There's always
But I
more.
think I
I
think we've
think
talked
like
about
we
pretty
covered the
well.
baseline.
Yeah. We talked
Yeah,
about
I think
them
we covered the
both like,
baseline pretty
yeah,
well.
like just one big package, which kind of is. Both movies just work together so
It
well.
is. I mean, there's a reason why people call like Blade Runner 2049 like one of the best sequels of all time because
Legacy
it doesn't
sequels,
really
yeah.
feel like a sequel. It just feels like an additional
Yeah.
piece of like it just feels like an additional thing that's tacked on to um the original Blade Runner. And I mean, I guess one thing I'll point out is that it's very cool that the animals that we see throughout the movie like spell out the name Rachel because like we have the rhinoceros, which is an R, and like antelope, which is an A, etc. Like all spells out like Rachel. That's kind of cool, and I think that the fight between Deckard and uh K is really cool
Love.
because you get to see the like
Oh, Deckard and K. Okay, sorry. My brain is
yeah
thinking of K and Love. No, yeah. Deckard and K.
yeah yeah it's very cool because you get to see like past like imagery of like Elvis and
Oh, it's so cool. I love
fucking
when Deckard is
yeah
like, I
it's
like
like
this
decaying
song.
still.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's the king because like those oh that entire thing is fading from
Well, yeah,
existence like
it's like
that past.
there's only the visual and the sometimes the sound kind of comes through, but it's kind of broken, and sometimes it works. It's like I like this song. It's like a
Yeah,
remnant of
it's
like
that
the
like
old world.
enjoyment. Yeah, exactly. Of like when people were a bit more free to
Yeah,
enjoy things, like when
free to make art.
there
I
was
mean, the way the Blade Runner universe works, I don't think people make art anymore.
no, they kind of. I mean, there's literal like outside of like LA, we literally see
Yeah,
like slave owners, like this guy who
yeah,
like has like children as slaves who like
yeah.
goes through
Child
technological
slaves.
part
Yeah,
like in
which is where Anna went to, when she was an orphan. It's kind of crazy.
yeah
It's
yeah but
the it's interesting because as well because like I was thinking like art did just pop into my mind like yeah I don't think they make art in that universe and I remembered in the first movie where
yeah.
it's like oh yeah it must be lonely where Pris says to Sebastian was like I make friends I literally make friends I
I
create
mean
them
yeah
it's like yeah this
you,
fucking depressing world you need to create your own friends like create
I
robots to
mean
be with you because you can't have a proper human connection. It's just not how the way the world works anymore. And it's the same as fucking Joy with Kay in the second movie.
I mean yeah, Sebastian literally creates these like two like little like these two little people who like constantly bump into things and say things in silly voices because like like he doesn't have any friends that's his own, so he might as well just make some. I yeah that it's very interesting about both Blade Runner movies. I do think we've talked about everything, but I mean in future I would love to cover more. I mean there's more cyberpunk stuff I love like it uh you probably know, and a lot of people ever know. A lot of people who know me probably know that like the cyberpunk genre is probably like my favorite subgenre
Hmm.
of all time, just because of the stories that come out of it. None of them are ever hopeful. But that I mean that's not really why you watch cyberpunk stuff. They're
Yeah.
the most like depressing things you could ever watch. Um, I guess like if we ever were to cover it again, which we probably will, Cyberpunk Edge Runners is probably one I'd recommend because the second season's coming out at some point, and I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
We should watch
and
that. Yeah.
yeah, because like that one it's very also kind of similar to Blade Runner. Of course, I think the Blade Runner movie is better, but it's also that it's also very depressing and like nihilistic like the both the other movies. I mean, we'll probably cover it when before season 2 comes out. whenever that may be, which I have no fucking clue. Probably early 2026. But I really enjoyed this discussion because I think I'm glad that I finally get to talk about my favorite movies of
Yeah.
all time. I definitely will make this into a video at some point, talking about like the hopeless, the nihilism that comes from Blade Runner, how hopeless it all is and everything. I don't know. I really want to make a video about it at some point. Will happen someday. Don't know when. I mean I'm working on like tons of other videos at the moment, but it'll happen. Um, but yeah. Anything else you want to add before we end it off here?
No, think we're good. I
All right.
I
Oh, do you? Oh, I'll
you
let you
keep
finish. Sorry, I didn't mean to
interrupting.
interrupt. I
Sorry,
keep
it's just so
interrupting.
funny.
We've had that like 10 times. Like,
Uh
I like. It seems like you're stopping. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll continue. And then you continue. I'm like, oh fuck, okay, I'll like. It's so okay. You go.
yeah, not entirely sure what I want us to cover next, since it is my turn, since you picked,
Yeah,
thingy-majig.
Blade Runner. Yeah.
Yeah. I might go with like a classic. I think I'll probably pick like an older movie. I think it'll be interesting. Older than even the first Blade Runner, which is already 43 years old. I think
Oh,
I'm gonna go
okay.
for like a very old classic. Probably horror because I
Yeah,
like I like horror. So yeah, it's probably what I'm gonna do. So stay tuned. I've not decided yet. You figure it out next week when we do it. So yeah.
you'll figure it out when you see the stream
The
icon
stream
and
title,
everything.
yeah, when it says like The
Yeah,
Exorcist and the
exactly.
Communist Manifesto, yeah.
The Exorcist, yeah, the Exorcist, and the horrors of having a child,
Yeah.
like something like that. I love the titles that we made. It's so fucking funny. I think it's the best title, and so this is probably my favorite stream we've done so far. So I mean, it
Yeah.
makes sense. Favorite title, favorite stream.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, we thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for listening. And we will see you next week when we cover whatever it is we cover in the horror genre. Have a good one, everyone. Take care.